A storm a-brewing. Count on it. The forecast is clear, and this is more reliable than Doppler. There's a storm that's going to come to your church over the issue of black and white. This is not about racism in general. It is specifically about black and white, which, by the way, is a fatal flaw of the social justice movement. Why not talk about Asian and Hispanic people? It's all black and white, and it's coming to your church, and so too will the issue of complementarianism, that there should be more women in leadership. What does that mean? Don't know, but that's the battle cry from the social justice movement. They are not making clear what their agenda is, what they're desiring, although I think we can surmise what the impetus is behind it. Nevertheless, they won't clarify what they want. Got me to thinking, neither have we. What do we want? What do we want? Well, I think we want a lot of things. Let's start with, in no particular order, unity as we discuss this. Can you imagine if racism and the issue of roles of women divides the conservative evangelical movement? Can you imagine brothers and sisters getting mad over this issue? And it's going to happen. I hate it, but it's going to happen with all the black and white, your black church, white evangelicals, black leaders, white leaders. It's coming. And the reason that it's going to cause division is because the movement, which is motivating a perfectly fine and godly sentiment that we abhor racism and sexism, is bad. The movement is bad. And it got me to thinking that is why we need to be critiquing the movement and not the people, because while I think that there are some in the social justice movement who are indeed fully aware of what their intentions are, what their desires are, and it smells an awful lot like politics, I think most people are just going, of course we don't want racism. Of course we don't want sexism. Who does it? I mean, come on. What evangelical? No. I want white people to hate black people and vice versa. I want women stomped on. It's ridiculous. It's what's motivating it, what's driving it, and where it's leading. Because this is not really about the issue of racism and sexism. It's about division. Because if we can divide the evangelical church, then what do? You divide the evangelical voting bloc. I have zero interest in politics, but it sure does seem that is what is behind this movement.
If God's way upsets our political alliances, let's crucify our political alliances.
Well, that would be swell if you were speaking to a group of progressive liberals, but that was at the MLK 50 conference with presumably evangelical, conservative, Bible-believing evangelical Christians of the Gospel Coalition and the Southern Baptist Convention. What does he ask? That's Russell Moore. What is he asking for there? Seems to me, if race supersedes any other social issue, including abortion, then it is okay for you to vote Democrat.
Your question. Yes, my name is John Wofford. I pastor Armorel Baptist Church in Armorel, Arkansas, and I have a question for Dr. Moore. I would like to know how in the world someone within the Southern Baptist Convention can support the defending of rights for Muslims to construct mosques in the United States when these people threaten our very way of existence as Christians and Americans. They are murdering Christians, beheading Christians, imprisoning Christians all over the world. Do you actually believe that if Jesus Christ were here today that he would support this and that he would stand up and say, well, let us protect the rights of those Baal worshipers to erect temples to Baal? Do you believe that, Dr. Moore?
You know, sometimes we have to deal with questions that are really complicated, and we have to spend a lot of time thinking them through and not sure exactly what the final result was going to be. Sometimes we have really hard decisions to make. This isn't one of those things. What it means to be a Baptist is to support soul freedom for everybody.
Do I believe that a guy like David Platt J.D. Greer or Matt Chandler are sitting in a smoke-filled room with a glass of whiskey, and you can hardly see each other through the cigar smoke going, "Mwahaha! Here's how we get Hillary elected."